Hello and welcome. On June 13, Israel launched its Operation Rising Lion on the pretext of wanting to destroy Iran's nuclear program. However, it became amply clear from statements by its former defense minister Naftali Bennett and even from Prime Minister Netanyahu himself, this time they were not merely trying to chop off the tentacles of the octopus in their own words. They believed that the situation was pregnant with conditions to strike at the head of the octopus. In other words, they aimed to topple the Iranian regime of Ayatollah Khamenei. And I knew it would be an unimaginably uphill task because since World War II, no country has achieved regime change through aerial bombings alone. Yes, Mossad did eliminate several key security commanders and nuclear scientists, but taking out Ayatollah Khamenei, the ideological heart of Shia resistance and the command center of the three H, namely Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, would require the highest degree of political adventurism and, crucially, most mass support on the ground as well, which the Israelis didn't have even a bit of. Then came June 21st, the United States under President Trump joined the war and dropped its heaviest bunker buster bombs on Iran's nuclear facilities. 4 days later, on June 25th, a fragile ceasefire was announced, but the geopolitical aftershocks are still unfolding. So let's ask 3 challenging questions. Question number 1, why did Israel chose this precise moment to strike Iran, militarily, diplomatically, and covertly? Question number 2, why did the United States decide to enter the conflict and launch airstrikes on June 22nd? And question number 3, why did Iran's close allies, Russia and China, refrain from providing any military support? So we'll answer these 3 whys in the next 8 to 10 minutes, so stay with us. And before getting started, if you appreciate our work, do subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. Let's dive in. Why Israel chose this very moment? Weakening of Iran's proxies. Hezbollah is broken after the collapse of Assad's regime. Hezbollah lost its logistics backbone and sustained heavy losses on Lebanon's border. Analysts at ISW say its military effectiveness has sharply declined. Hamas has been decimated too. Over 2/3 of its leadership and fighters were killed after the October 2023 Gaza war. Israel has delivered a strategic blow, making it non-threatening for the moment, and Assad's regime collapse severed the regional arms pipeline through Syria, approaching Iran's influence routes and leaving it exposed. As Dr. Khalim Sajadpour of the Atlantic Council put it, Iran is diplomatically cornered, its regional allies are crumbling, and Israel sees its final opening. And secondly, Netanyahu finally got the president he wanted. He's been trying to push Washington into striking Iran for almost 2 decades. He tried with Bush, he tried with Obama, he tried with Trump regime 1, and of course with Biden. No one agreed. But now, with Trump freshly re-elected, more emboldened, and the president with a mercurial mind, surrounded by hawkish advisors, Bibi finally found his moment. Trump, unlike his predecessors, said, "Why talk when you can bomb?" and post about it on Truth Social afterwards. It took 20 years, 3 presidents, 2 collapsed Arab regimes, and 1 dramatic late-night tweet. But Netanyahu finally got his green light. That brings us to analyze as to what went through the mind of Trump that he decided not just to enter the fray, but also with the heaviest bomb which the US has. Why the US entered with bunker buster strategic timing, a gamble was taken. Let's not forget Trump campaigned as a non-war president, yet when Israel struck, he reversed course, ordering massive ordnance penetrates on Iran's nuclear facilities on June 21st and 22nd. Secondly, he was convinced that US intervention would be very brief, dramatic, and path-breaking. As Fiona Hill said, this was not just about Iran, it was also about Beijing, Moscow, and anyone watching from UN live stream. Trump sent a message: we still dominate the strategic heavy ground and sky. He didn't want to negotiate from weakness, he wanted to negotiate with leverage. And second point, diplomacy failed, force became plan B. Back channel negotiations in Oman collapsed in early June. Iran resumed enrichment, but inspectors and hardened its stance. A US intel assessment warned that Iran was only a few months away from having a bomb. An elite TIA briefing confirmed the timeline, prompting Trump to shift from diplomacy to force. As a CSIS analyst noted, the strikes were fallback or after diplomacy failed. Trump didn't seek regime change, he wanted to freeze the nuclear clock with minimal ground presence. But what happened to Iran's natural friends, Russia and China? Why Russia withheld military support, overstretched and realist? Well, the entire world knows that Russia is bogged down in Ukraine, facing ammunition shortages and strategic fatigue. So NBC's Russia think tank analyst said aiding Iran militarily would drag us into NATO's crosshairs. Though Tehran is a close strategic partner, it is not a treaty ally. Moscow chose diplomatic caution over open conflict, keeping its regional footprints intact. Diplomatic chess, not war games. Russia is balancing. It wants open channels with Israel, the Gulf, and the US military escalation would break that balancing plate. Instead, Putin and Lavrov positioned Russia as a voice of reason, calling for de-escalation while preserving influence. Why China said no thanks? A new superpower without military alliances? China has no tradition of overseas military intervention. As Professor Yan Zhetong of Singan University explained, Beijing doesn't fight other people's war, it only acts when its own rise is at stake. Since 2005, China stopped major arms exports to Iran, focusing instead on trade and economic cooperation under the 25-year Belt and Road Initiative. Unlike Russia, it lacks any history of doctrine of protecting partners via war. Since it is a new entrant on the block of being superpower, economic interests come first. Iran is a major oil supplier, but China's trade portfolio is massive. One war could threaten entire supply chains and massive sanctions. AP News reports say that China chose cautious diplomacy over military support, urging de-escalation to protect economic stability and Belt and Road momentum. Diplomatic statements against Israel aggression at the UN were delivered, but Beijing quietly stepped away from any conflict involvement. So the final thought is this, that this episode marks a shift, targeted regime decapitation, a US re-entry into Mid-Eastern war via ally backing, and two global powers standing on the sidelines, preserving power through economics, not weapons. That is today's cold-blooded geopolitical calculus. My analysis is as per the situation persists today. Tomorrow, the calculation might change. We'll keep an eye on on this dangerously volatile scenario, and if required, then revisit it. But for the moment, thanks for watching. Stay informed. Bye bye.